Today, I'm here with a guest. Her name is Michele Thill, and she went through a very sudden life transition. And I wanted to tell her story because I know that a lot of you single moms will be able to relate to that. She's a board-certified health and wellness coach and the founder of NEWLAND Wellness. She supports women navigating major life transitions, just as she did. And as a mom of two adult children, she understands the emotional terrain of raising teens, including the moments where they taste your patience, your heart, and your sense of self. Michele brings deep empathy, personal insight, and practical tools to help women show up for themselves while still showing up for their children. Enjoy. Hi, Michele. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm delighted to have you here as a guest because I'm very curious about your story and I know you have a lot of value to bring to the audience. So I'm happy to have you here. First of all, I didn't ask you, where are you located?
I am in a suburb in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay. I wanted just to start with your story and how you got to be doing what you're doing today, help women to transform, because I thought it was a very interesting story. I'm sure it will talk to a lot of my audience, single moms. So what was the turning point? How did you get to do what you are doing today?
So first off, I just want to say what an honor and a pleasure it is to be here with you and everyone that's listening. What my turning point was was definitely when my ex decided to leave. Had been together for 29 years, and he decided that he was going to move on to someone else after all that time, and left me. It was the first time I had ever been on my own. I had never lived on my own. I never had to support myself. And I had just gotten back into the workforce a few years earlier, working part time as a meeting room leader for Weight Watchers. I had been a stay at home mom. As you see, I'm coming to you from my kitchen, the heart of the home. That was my dream that was brought to reality, was to be that homemaker and mother and that caretaker. And now all of a sudden life was saying, okay, you had that moment, time now to take care of yourself and support yourself and learn how to do that. And my kids were in their early 20s at the time, so I was home much longer than maybe somebody else would have been. My daughter was just graduating from college at that time.
Okay, so great. At least I know it doesn't make it easy, but at least they were not like young kids to where you have to have a babysitter and
Yes.
run from work. So,
Yes.
and do you remember at the time, I'm sure you felt devastated. And do you remember some kind of thoughts, like maybe limiting thoughts that came up as with the shock of your ex-husband leaving?
Oh, absolutely. Because my world that was modeled to me through my own upbringing and through all my extended family was the woman stays at home and the husband brings in the paycheck and takes care of everything financially and all of the bills, and the woman takes care of the home and the kids. And all of a sudden I was broken out of that model, and of course the little girl in me is, wait, we can't do this. We need somebody to support us. We're not able to do this on our own. And that's a voice I still have to this day. And I've learned to quiet it more and comfort it more. But yeah, definitely the limiting beliefs of who am I? And then I started to feel a calling to start a business. When I started to see what I went through, and that, gosh, I am stronger than I realized and smarter than I knew. And so is everybody else. We keep ourselves small. Here comes my cat, Ed. Excuse me. Ed, I just want to say, if I may take a moment, Ed is our 17-year-old cat, the
Wow.
last of the family cats that my daughter Britt brought home. And he loves to be on camera. I'm so sorry,
Wow.
guys. But I decided that if I could do this, and it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, I wanted to help other women. I've been 10 years now on my own. So I decided I wanted to help other women on this journey feel empowered to learn to take care of themselves. And so those are voices I'm still hearing, but they're not as loud as they once were.
Yeah, because we always have some recurring like limiting belief that will
Yeah.
show their head some from time to time, but we're well better we're better equipped to know
Yeah.
how to deal with them. But I would like to come back to something that you said that can be surprising to people. It wasn't as hard as I thought it would. What do you mean by that?
I remember my ex as he would be like working on doing the bills, working on taking care of whatever it might be. Maybe it's maintenance on a car or whatever. Always making it seem to me like it was such a big deal, and hard work, and that I don't have the qualifications. We started moving to doing things online, for example, banking, and he's like, "Oh, you're not very tech savvy. This would be hard for you to understand." And after we parted, and my son started teaching me things, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually easier. Just like this isn't as hard as I was feeling or led to believe. When you take it in baby steps and you tap into your inner self, your inner power, you start to realize there's an inner guidance with you. So I'm not doing these things alone. None of us are. We all
Yes,
have
I mean,
help
we don't.
around us.
We don't, but it takes some awareness to be conscious of that.
Yes.
And it takes us also intercepting the story, telling us that we can't,
Yeah.
that we don't have what it takes, that we are alone. And we really need to first, as anything else, awareness is the first step of anything. You become conscious of something, and then you can intercept it when the patterns is playing itself.
Right.
So do you remember? So you said taking it in small steps.
Yeah.
So how small? Because I always tell people take a day at a time, sometimes a minute at a time when we're struggling with things with our teenagers. Your cat.
It's rubbing on the computer. Sweetheart, come here. Sorry about that.
No problem. And do you remember how small, like how small of a step did you
Oh.
start taking?
Gosh, it really is the little daily steps, breaking things down. I'm someone who had always been anxious and a worrier. And when you look at the big picture of things, isn't it so easy to get all worked up by that? How is this going to happen? How am I going to do it? But if I take things and break it down to the one step at a time, uh, it, what's one thing that we could do right now that helps move us forward? And as we're talking, I'm trying to think of an actual example, and I apologize because nothing is coming right to mind at the moment, but it's just the taking that small step that leads to the next step, that leads to the next step, that leads to the next step.
Did you have some kinds of routines or practices that helped you stay away from the fear and the anxiety and the worry? What were your tools? What did you use?
Oh, yes. So mantras, actually, you can call them mantras. You can call them affirmations. I've also heard them called you're directing your energy. So, however one feels more comfortable using it. But to me, that pattern interrupt when my mind is going loud and crazy, stopping it with a strong thought. One of mine was when I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. A, a Wayne Dyer quote. When I
Wayne Dyer, I was going to
Yeah,
say.
honestly, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And then starting to tune my brain, starting to rewire it and quiet my mind to take a new perspective on things. That's Wayne Dyer. Gabby Bernstein would say, I choose. I choose another way. I choose to see this in another way. And putting in a different perspective on that was always very helpful for me, catching my thoughts, being self-aware to realize the only thing I have control over is myself. And am I going to react as I always have, or am I going to act in a new way? Meditation. And it took a while for me to get into the groove of meditating, but learning to, it's hard to quiet the mind, right? But not
Please.
engage in the thoughts. So you sit and you meditate and thoughts start coming in. I All of a sudden, what am I making for dinner? Well, this is what I
Okay.
have in the fridge and all of that. But instead of going down that road, what am I going to have for dinner? Stop. And I would just say out loud, stop. And then it would quiet the mind. And I would just do my best to connect with myself. 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Now I can go a half an hour to help relax the anxiety. Because when we're in the anxiety, we're in the problem. We're never going to find any of those solutions we
No.
need.
And the repetition of
Oh,
doing that exercise,
yes.
stopping.
Yes.
Because what I find is when I talk about meditation with people, they're like, but I cannot not think. And I'm like, this is not about not thinking. The brain is meant to think. It's about the gap in between the thoughts. It's
Yeah.
about not being judgmental with yourself when you're going to have that thought, what am I going to make for dinner? Or what do I need to do tomorrow for the kids? Whatever. And also, it varies. I am a meditator since my daughter was 4.5 and she's now 28. But I still have days where I'm more agitated because something is going on. And it's about having, first of all, the discipline. Second of all, I work a lot with the material of Joe Dispenza.
Oh,
So, yeah,
yes.
knowing that it takes us, we need to take control back and tell the mind, you're not the boss. You have to
Hmm.
bring back to this moment. My mantra when I meditate is just be. Because don't think, don't do, don't just be. And
Yes.
that helps me come back. We all have our own mantra, something that really connects for us to ourselves. And so knowing that you're going to have some thoughts, it's not going to be easy every day, even if you
Oh.
are a very, like a veteran in meditation. And I had that the other day. I was doing a meditation and I suffer from chronic pain. And
Mm.
my meditation was so hard that day. I don't know what was going on. And I got up and I was like, that was not a good meditation. But yet, throughout the day, and right now I have an onset of chronic pain. Throughout that day, I was not in pain. So I was like, no, that
Wow.
was not a bad, quote unquote, bad meditation. It actually did something. It didn't resemble my usual ones, but it did something unconsciously. So
Yeah.
the non-judgment part is very non-judgment and patience is very important.
Isn't that the truth? Because I too have had times where you think, well, I didn't feel like I accomplished anything. I didn't feel very deep. I didn't hit like that peak point. But it doesn't have to be that way. We put that judgment on it. And for me, I find I like meditating a little later in the day. Like at work, during my lunch break, I'll go and I'll meditate, or maybe after work. I do find if I try to do it first thing in the morning, and many people do, and I give them credit for that. It's my mind is too loud at that time. So I found like my sweet spot. And then in the morning, I'll do things like gratitude, and I'll listen to inspirational videos on, say, YouTube or something, to center myself and balance myself for the day.
The listening and YouTube for that, I'm so grateful for YouTube because we are going to think what we feed our mind.
Mhm.
So if we feed our mind with constant news, constant problems, negative stuff, that's what we're going to think about all day.
Yeah.
And feeding our mind, consciously feeding our mind every day with positive stuff, with empowering stuff is a game changer for everyone. And for that, I mean, we have the internet nowadays, isn't it marvelous? It's free.
Yeah.
Uh, you just have to apply. That's all. And gratitude, what did gratitude, no, what was the role of gratitude in you bouncing back from all that?
You know, it I've always been someone who has talked about finding the gratitude in the storm, finding that silver lining. When my ex left, it was comforting and very easy to just, he's the bad guy. And can you believe this happened to me? And to play the victim. And that's where I would have stayed, the victim. And of course it is. I'm not saying to just ignore the emotions or any of that, or Pollyanna over it. That
Yeah,
toxic positivity. I had my feelings, but I didn't look to stay stuck there. So what I did is I started saying, I'm thankful for the support that I have. I'm thankful for my health. I'm grateful that I am going to find my way forward. I kept looking for the helpers in the problem, and turning to that, and I started to see, especially through the change the way you look at things and the things you look at change, that life was happening for and not to me, that it was actually a gift. Because if I'm going to be totally honest, I took my vows, happily ever after, but it was really becoming unhappily ever after. I wasn't happy in the marriage, and obviously neither was my ex. And why continue to live that way? My kids were in shock and heartbroken, but at the same time, they were relieved because they're like, yeah, we could see how this was going and it wasn't good and how it made our household flow. And after a while of being on my own, my kids were saying to me, Mom, you are much more peaceful, you're much more relaxed, you seem a lot happier. And that's why bringing in that gratitude of what is trying to emerge from me, what is am I to learn from what's happening right now? How can I rise from all of this? I feel like when we go through life transitions, if we choose, it is an opportunity for us to grow and evolve and become that self that we're now meant to be at this stage.
And in a lot of cases, crisis happens when you've been unwilling to see the unconscious longing in the situation.
Yeah.
You've been unwilling to see what was not going okay. And not always, but in a lot of cases. And yes, it's important also to feel the emotions. I mean, when that happens, it's like a slap in the face. You need to cry, you need to do whatever you have to do to feel what you're feeling,
Hmm.
but not um, how to marinate in that for too long, because then you lose your power and you lose your aliveness.
That is perfectly said. You lose your power. You give your power away instead of taking it back. Absolutely. And we're both connected with Dana Wilde, and one thing that I love about her when I was first introduced to her is her thoughts as a brain trainer of the problem isn't your story. The problem is you keep retelling the story. And that's and understandably, that's what so many of us do. And it's a processing of it. But when you keep telling it, especially years later, it's
Yes.
like, oh, gosh, let it go. I look at my ex and I say, there, he wasn't wrong. I wasn't wrong. We were growing apart, and he was brave enough to decide to want something more. I wouldn't have been in a position to leave. Uh, not knowing how to support myself, he ultimately gave me a gift in me being able to do that and find more happiness being on my own and maybe eventually being in another relationship. I'm not right now, and I'm right now in the relationship of myself and really enjoying that.
And so it seems that you have forgiven, which is a huge piece in healing also. Um, how how did it come about? Because I know that sometimes forgiving is in layers, sometimes it takes time. What
Yeah.
helped you? How did you go through that?
Another mentor, gosh, I love the people, and I've been with Joe Dispenza as well, is Neil Donald Walsh.
Oh yeah.
Listening to him at an early stage and his thoughts of not really liking that F word.
Yes.
That's such a loaded concept because to say, I forgive my ex, that sounds so heavy. That sounds so much. And it's saying he's wrong and he needs me to forgive him. Neil Donald Walsh opened my eyes to the concept of instead, I understand. I understand. I understand that my ex wasn't happy. I understand, later on, he self admitted, found out that he was bipolar. And I always thought he was ADHD. I understand that there's a broken brain concept that wasn't helping him and ultimately our relationship. I understand he was doing the best that he could given what was going on in him, and so was I. And to me, by taking out that F word and bringing in understand more, it took out the judgment and brought in the compassion and empathy. And that made a huge difference in how I look at not only that relationship, but other things in life as well too.
And for mothers, because I know that sometimes they're not ready yet to have compassion. The forgiveness word is also hard for me because there is so much attachment with that.
Yeah.
Some people take it as I am okay with what they did. That's not at all what it is.
Mm-mm.
I use more something like I let go of the emotional reaction. I let go of the emotional attachment to that person or that event. I
Yeah.
free myself because that's really what we're doing. I free
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
and and that way, if you're not yet ready to have the compassion and the love, you can be neutral about them because the
Right.
truth is it's between them and their higher power.
Right.
It's between them and themselves.
Yeah.
And that way you take back your power and you just decide to free yourself because you no longer want to be carrying anger because it's
Yes.
not helping you.
No,
And
no.
that's how I reconcile that within me, and that's how I present it to my clients. Um, but yeah, letting go of that attachment to the other person. And now you're helping women do the same.
Yeah.
Do you help only women who just ended a marriage, just divorced? Who are your clients?
So because I have been through divorce, it's easiest to relate to that. So I do look to help women who have been through divorce. That said, I have also worked with women who have lost a partner, or even women that are now empty nesters. You know, you may still be in a relationship, but now your kids are gone and the relationship and dynamic in the household has changed. So it is even working with, it's the life transitions where you feel like, my God, now what? Now what is going to happen? And I look to give hope that there can be excitement in this as well. And even going back to what you said about those that aren't ready to actually feel the compassion, to just let go of the anger. I once heard Oprah say something like, forgiveness is just you realizing that things couldn't be any other way. It's not justifying what happened, but it's just saying it happened. And now from that, you have that chance to lay on the floor in a ball, or you have a chance to get up and rise and grow from that. And that's what I look to help women see is the possibility. We all know where we're at in life, what is. We all know where we have been, what was. I look to help women see what could be. And if they step into that, what will be.
So if they just, for anyone who would listen and is just in the first stage of transition, the when it's all scary and you don't know what you're gonna do, and
Oh,
what would be the first thing you would tell them? What would you tell them to do or to embrace?
to embrace again, one, what helped me keep hanging on was the mantra that I heard from, here's another mentor, Elanya Van Sant. I'm full of them, people, is peace from broken pieces. I
Oh,
would walk around. That was actually a name of a book she had, but
yeah.
I didn't need to read the book. I just needed that title. And throughout the day, as Dana Wilde would say, that pattern interrupt of I'm finding peace from broken pieces, peace from broken pieces, peace from broken feet, each step of the way, and figuring out. I had to, and it was all baby steps. It was the cleaning out of the house that we had lived in, and 29 years of everything, and the heartbreak of letting things go because I knew I would move into a condo. We couldn't keep the house. There was no way I could afford the house on my own. And by the way, my ex went through all our money. He didn't hide it. He went through all of it. And so I walked away with absolutely nothing. And so I was starting again. And I remember, for an example, being in our basement that was filled with all our memories, all the stuff that I was saving one day for grandkids, and all of that heartbreak. And I would sit and I would cry and I would say, you know what? You can take all this from me, but you can't take the memories of this. And having, so for me, it was knowing that I was losing the house, if you will. I was losing the marriage, if you will. I was losing the family dynamic, if you will. I was losing the roles I held. I was no longer going to be a wife or a homeowner or even resident in my town. I was losing all of that. They were taken from me, okay? What wasn't taken from me? My faith, my hope, love. Those were the things that I started realizing is who I am. I wasn't all those other things. Those were all other parts of my life that I honor and can look back at any moment and have that memory. Right now, I'm in my basement, right now in my head, looking at all the things. They can't, those memories can't be taken away, you
It's
know?
things we can leave this planet with. That's,
Right,
yeah, that's what we take
right.
with us. And that it is right. Nobody can take that away from us.
And that was what was comforting to me, is
Yeah,
that even though all of that was being taken from me in those early days, the memories were always going to be there. That life that I lived was always going to be there. And if I was going to be truthful and really over time stepped back and looked, I started to see the dysfunction that I was too caught up in the
yeah.
moment to see. And I
It's
started to
too close.
realize,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it really is a journey of self awareness and one step at a time. Yeah.
I love that peace from broken pieces because it can bring us peace. We don't even have to know what to do. We
Yeah.
don't even have to know what's the next step. It's just here and now, and we don't need to change anything. That's
Yeah.
really powerful. I never heard that from her.
Yeah.
Uh, so, if people who are going through transition want to connect with you, where would they need to go?
Oh, if you would like, we haven't really discussed this, but I would be happy to share a free gift if the ladies would love. And what it is it's an ultimate checklist for when you go through a life transition, and it's a 5-step simple practice of how to start getting out of your head and start getting into your heart and connecting with the you of now, and start to see things differently. And I can share that link with you then. And
Absolutely. And
yeah,
I'll
that
put
would be
yeah, put it in the description, definitely.
beautiful. Yeah, that would be the best way. And then what would happen is you'll get the email, it'll be emailed to you. And then I have a weekly Wednesday email that I send out that they can further connect and reach me there. So I do have a website, but I feel like this is the best way to actually connect with me as my website evolves. So
Great. Well, we're always in the becoming of something else.
right.
That's the beauty of it. Well, I want to thank you for being here today. You had a lot of great advice. And for me, that mantra, I will go with that mantra. It really resonated with me. And you shared a lot of very good tools and ways for people to feel better until they actually go to the next step.
Yeah,
So thank you
thank
so
you.
much,
Thank you.
Michelle.
Oh my gosh, thank you for the opportunity because I'm telling you, anyone who's listening right now, there is hope on the other side of just keep moving forward, keep taking care of yourself, and realize what's happening for you, even though it may not feel like it, ultimately is a gift. And one day you're going to look back and see what I'm talking about. And I'm so excited for you when that moment comes.
And that goes so well with cooperating with the universe because we are connected and we can tap into that power, and we have help, we have assistance, guidance, protection, etc.
Oh,
So that's
yeah.
totally on topic or aligned with that. Um, so I thank you for being here, and reach out to Michelle to find out more if you are in a life transition and you need help. And don't forget, you are not alone and there is hope. Those two sentences will help you immensely through, through the transition. See you next time with another video.